This, my friends, is the Aiyima A70, another Class D amplifier using the Texas Instruments 3255 chipset, and it's under $200. How many of these do we need? Well, maybe one more, because this one is borderline perfect, but one of my favorite budget hi-fi companies, straight to customer hi-fi companies out of China, is Aiyima. Aiyima, Fuzzy Audio, Duke Audio, SMSL, Topping, all similar go-to-market strategies. SMSL and Topping, they do go through some resellers. Even Aiyima and Fuzzy do, I think, but most of the time you're either buying directly from their website or from Amazon. This one is a little bit different looking than the other ones, like this. This is an RSL. This is the IA255.1. RSL is based out of the United States of America. That makes subwoofers and speakers. This, I think that comes in at $110. This is the Fuzzy Audio ZA3. One of my favorite amplifiers, and it shares many of the same features as the A70. Look, see? Almost the same. And this is the Aiyima A07 Max. Uh-oh. Nope, I gave that to some of my patrons. But they all have the same power plant, the same engine. TI 3255. The reason why they're using that, I think, is because number one, it sounds real nice. Number two, you can get a lot more power out of the 3255 chipset than you can out of a lot of these other Class D chipsets, and it's almost become ubiquitous. Even the mighty Weem amp uses the TI 3255. One of the cool things about the A70 is the power supply. This, my friends, is a GAN power supply. GAN stands for GAN. It's a 48 volt 5 amp power supply. Cool thing about this one is it's little. Let's take a look at another 48 volt 5 amp power supply. Oh my goodness. Look at the size difference. There's a big size difference. The traditional one, I got this one with some Fuzzy Audio amps, is much bigger, probably 1.5 inches taller. Maybe a 1/2 inch wider. It's bigger. This one's kind of like the size of 24 volt or a 32 volt traditional power supply. I don't know anything about GAN power supplies because I'm not very good at this. So if you do know what the difference between GAN power supplies and regular power supplies are, put it down in the comments. Help out the community. Help me out. Teach me something. How you work this thing. It's a multi-function volume button. Not a huge fan of those. I like switches. I like toggles. I like to know what gear I'm in. Nothing wrong with this per se. It's their choice. They can choose. But you got a long press to turn the power on, short press to turn the inputs from XLR or RCA. I'm just not this type of a guy. However, if I'm using this amplifier, I'm not really using the volume control function. I'm not really switching inputs very often. This is just sitting, I've got a front end on it, like a Weem Ultra or something else, and I'm controlling everything from that. So fundamentally, I'm just doing this, and then it stays put forever and ever. Amen. I do kind of find it interesting that they're using orange on the side, when Fozzy Audio is also using orange on the side. And before somebody says that Fozzy and Aiyima are the same company, they are not. They're fierce competitors. I just think it's funny, like, okay, we got orange here. We got a slightly different color of orange. And from my understanding, you can actually take this thing apart and slide this out. So you could paint it blue, or you could paint it burgundy. Burgundy's not going to be a lot different from this, but you can. I don't know if you can get burgundy spray paint anymore. You could go gray, maybe a metallic, like a hammered metal. You could do whatever you want. You got to open it up though. These are obviously different. These amps, I don't know if it's because of the real estate that they need to keep cool, but these amps are getting bigger and different as far as their enclosure. This is similar to the SMSL. I don't even remember the model numbers now. Beginning of the channel, the SMSL used to have these kind of brick amplifiers, and they were kind of cool. On the inside of here, you have two PCB boards stacked together. I don't know how I feel about that. If you're not doing anything with the amplifier, then it doesn't matter. But you can change out the op amps in here. You can put some Bursons, you can put some Sparkos, you can put some other Texas Instruments op amps inside, which you can also do with the ZA3. ZA3 though, you pull it out, you got everything right there, you change them out. This one, you got to pull it out. I think there's thermal paste on here, and then you have to maybe even unstack the boards to change out the op amps. I did not. I like to listen to things in their stock form. But if you want to change the op amps, you can. There's just a little bit more work involved with the A70 from Aiyima than there is with the ZA3 from Fozzy Audio. This also has another little secret up its sleeve besides the smaller power supply that puts out the same amount of voltage and amperage than other power supplies do that are a lot bigger.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah.
PFFB, post filter something something.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, whoa, yeah, yeah. Hey.
Anyway, it's an upgrade. They have the same feature in the new Weem Amp Pro. Yeah, there we go. Interesting thing is though, this puts out a lot more power than the Weem Amp Pro does. I think it's there for some type of load impedance, something or other. If you know what PFFB is, put it down in the comments. However, it's the latest iteration using the Texas Instruments 3255 chipset to make it better. Does that affect sound? I don't know. I could barely tell a difference between the Weem Amp and the Weem Amp Pro, but it might have more to do with like maintaining the rated output power regardless of what's going on with the load. I usually don't really care about new technical features with the amp chip or anything if it doesn't affect the sound, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like I have 100 different features on my washer and dryer. I can control my washer, I can control my dryer through Wi-Fi. Guess how often I use that feature? 0 times I've used the feature, the Wi-Fi dryer. Like, why would you want I don't know. I don't need to communicate to my dryer when I'm out of the house. Another interesting feature on the back of this. So, we have a subwoofer output right there, a yellow one. Right here, yeah, nope, that's not it. Right here, on the other side, there's a knob, and it says hertz. It says 150 up to 600. And I kind of got simultaneously really excited and really confused at the same time. I thought this was going to be a high-pass filter, But if it was a high pass filter, it would be somewhat worthless because 150 hertz is way higher than I want to high pass my speakers. I like to high pass my speakers 80 hertz, 60 hertz, maybe 90 hertz. And on the RSL IA 255.1, they do have a high pass filter. It's just a switch right here. Switch, toggle, know where you're at with the toggle, okay? It's either off or it's 90 hertz. I can live with 90 hertz, right? Perfect. 90 hertz, you're cutting all that big bass to your bookshelf speakers. You're getting them to play louder. You got your subwoofer dialed in just perfectly with the low pass filter on the subwoofer. But this, it's got a filter on it. That's awesome, right? No, it's not awesome. It's worthless because 150 is way too high to be a high pass filter, and it's not even a high pass filter. It's a low pass filter. And I could see it being useful if you had this powering a subwoofer that was passive. But since subwoofers generally aren't passive unless you're a DIYer, your subwoofer already has a low pass filter, which is going to do a much better job than this. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Then the last feature, there's two more features on the back. You have a 12-volt trigger in, which I love because you have the wonky power button here. If you have a trigger input, your source is going to turn this on. Remember when I said I would be using this as a power amp only? So that's a good feature. Ding! I was looking for my other button that goes bum 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 bum, like from it wasn't Wheel of Fortune. It was the one in the morning where they guessed the prices and then somebody would say $1 if they thought everybody else had overbid. That show. What is it? It used to be, I want to say Bill Bixby, but that's not Bill Bixby because he was the Incredible Hulk. I don't know. Drew Carey, I think, hosts it now. Last feature that they have, and a little bit of a head scratcher for me too, is an RCA plus 3 dB. So you can increase the gain on the RCA connections. Okay. Cool. How does it sound? Well, when I compared the A70 to the ZA3, they sounded fundamentally the same. I think what the A70 has going for it on paper is the ability to handle higher SPLs for longer and still maintain a little bit of headroom. I don't know, but I only listen about 75 to 80 dB, so I don't need a ton of headroom. On paper, this thing puts out a ton of power, and there's a lot of things to like about this amplifier. The ZA3 also has a subwoofer output. It doesn't have any filtering, but what the ZA3 does have that the A70 doesn't have is the ability to use this as a mono block. So let's just wrap this video up. What are my final thoughts on the A70? Well, I think it's awesome, except for the weird filter. I think the power supply is awesome, but technically speaking, you can probably get a GAN power supply for the ZA3, and this can be purchased, the A70 can be purchased without a power supply, which is pretty cool. So I do like the smaller power supply. I do like their choice of connectors right here, speaker connections, speaker terminals, way better than the ones on the Fozzy Audio ZA3. These are terrible. I mean, really, really bad. And that's really the only gripe I have about the ZA3 is the speaker binding posts. Much, much better. Larger. I would say they feel marginally better from a quality standpoint on the A70 versus the ZA3. The stacked architecture, the stacked design of the PCBs is not my favorite, but I'm not really I won't be like opening this thing up multiple times. If you're gonna change the op amps, you open it up once and you're done. I can't really say that that's a negative on this amplifier. I do like the size. Here's what would make this amplifier perfect. Darn near perfect. Number one, if you could bridge this and then get more power out of it, like you can with the ZA3. Number two, get rid of the worthless low pass filter and put a high pass filter on there like you have with the IA255.1 from RSL. And then get rid of the RCA thing. Like, do we need that? Or keep it on there. The A07 Max has the same chipset and it has the ability to play in mono. So if this had the ability to play in mono, you have trigger inputs. You can use these basically just as power amplifiers, or if you want to be on a desktop, you can use this as a desktop amplifier. It's 2-channel if you need it, but if you want it, it can be a single channel for better channel separation, all the good stuff, a little bit more power. Like, we're getting there. We're getting so close on these Class D amplifiers, and if you wait about 3 or 4 hours, they'll probably come out with another one that has all the features that we want. As it sits though, I had this hooked up to the new, the wonderful, the buttery, the creamy, the terrific ELAC Debut 3.0, the 6.5-inch version or the 6-inch version, which drops bombs. I mean, drops bombs. This can handle it. You're not going to play this at 90 dB sustained. You will get like high 80, even 90 peaks, and I was really surprised just how far I could push this amplifier. So here's the good things. It sounds good. It has some usable features. Here's the bad things. It's got some unnecessary features. But all in all, the Aiyima A70, real good. I like it a lot. Trying to think which one I would like. If I was super tight on space, I would probably choose the Aiyima A70 over the Fuzzy Audio ZA3 and then put a Weem Ultra on it. And when you put a Weem Ultra on the A70, fundamentally, I mean, you're going to be hooking up your subwoofer to the Weem and not to this, right? And so you don't have to worry about any of the filtering. But if you want a super minimalist system with just a subwoofer, this, and some speakers, I mean, you're still going to need a source. You're going to need a DAC or something. Then a lot of the features on this don't... I mean, the filter's useless. Absolutely useless. I mean, no one's ever going to use it. I don't know what to keep talking. I mean, it's a really good amp. I love it. It's $180, and I think the ZA3 comes in at a lower price. ZA3, though, does not have that PFFB technology in it. But you can run mono. But they either need to eliminate some of these features and charge less, or make the features better and charge the same, because we're starting to get awful close at $200 with a power supply. If you can save up another $100, the monolith, mono price 2-channel amplifier with a linear power supply, it's a full size component. That's coming in at $300. So we're getting awful close with some of these amplifiers, and once you get to the $200-ish range, we're knocking on the door of a real amplifier. When I say real, I'm not trying to throw shade at Class D, but I'm talking about like toroidal transformer, all the stuff, really usable power, a lot more current. Well, this thing probably has good current. Anyway. $200, we're getting close. Like, I think Class D needs to stay in its lane a little bit, but the A70 is awesome. I give it an approval. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. By the way, the link in the description will be an affiliate link, which means if you use it, I get a little bit of a commission. It helps support the channel. Doesn't cost you any more, though. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.